Hello and welcome to Hell in podcast form. Sunderland ensured 2K plus fans endured probably the scariest Halloween that they could imagine, as they did the very best impression of killer clowns from outer space at Rotherham's New York Stadium. Somehow, we've managed to pluck up the courage to do a podcast, and much like the popular film, we're hoping it'll be a good exorcism that will rid us of the anger that lies inside. And failing that, we'll just do exactly what the priest did in the movie and jump out of the window. To join me is long-term friend, but new voice of the podcast and debutant to the pod. It's one of the faces behind Sunderland Central Scotland branch, Dan Pugh. Dan, how are you doing? Are you all right?
Aye, not bad. Could be better.
Aye, not bad. You're breathing, which is the start, I guess, isn't it? Like I said, there's always the window available for both of us. On the flip side, as always, or it's normally anyway, our opposition voice is Matt from the New York podcast. I'm going to assume you're doing all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm having a pretty good Saturday. Yeah.
Been all right, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, it is Halloween, so I guess, there's one thing. Oh my God, my cat's kicking right off. Anyone can hear that. I'm not going to edit it. I can't be asked. You're going to have to just deal with it, guys. All right. We don't normally record this early, but I have a Halloween night planned, so we have recorded early, and typically Sunderland lost 5-1. Dan, it's less than an hour after full time. How are you feeling?
Fucking annoyed, if I'm honest. It was just crap from start to finish, wasn't it? It was just I can't offer 1 ounce of positivity about it. And that's not me being Halloween and negative and scary. It was just dreadful. I mean, we've had it for a while now. Well, a couple of away games recently, or a couple of home games, but it was just dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. You get the morale boost in midweek with the cup game and the draw this morning, and you think there's a bit of hype about it. There's been a lot of hype about the fans going to all the games, all the sellouts, and you think, how can they turn the performance like that in with everything else is going on, all the positivity elsewhere, like off the pitch? It's just, I can't. It's one of the worst games I've seen ever, if I'm honest.
I'm old enough to remember when we beat Rotherham 5-1. So now I feel old and fucking sick. Matt, obviously, you're going to be the opposite side, but we do always get an opposition fan on, which was a great idea at the start of the season when we win all the games. Now I'm thinking it's a horrendous idea, but you're here nonetheless. We talked during the week. We said it was going to be a good game. We said, both sides felt like they were sort of in form and being looked at. Rotherham obviously showed up today, but how do you assess the game from your side?
We were faultless. Faultless. The goal we conceded was a poor goal to concede. We haven't mentioned that in a minute, but I think all our players played very, very well. We maybe had another gear, but I think the way that Sunderland set up suits down to if you're going to knock baller out from the back with not much conviction, we're probably going to press you. We're going to put you. What should have happened at 2-1 or something like that? You should change the way they're playing. Go more direct. Try and bypass the press. Because playing into our hand, they just perfectly play into our hands. I can't understand, first of all, why it started like that. And number two, why they didn't change it during the game. I mean, I've only seen Lee Johnson from afar, but it doesn't strike me as a guy who can change it during the game. If it's not working, I don't know. From what I've seen, it doesn't always change it very well. And that's played out today. I don't understand that playing that way against us. We beat MK Dons 3-0 last week, and they tried doing exactly the same. If you've watched our last game, you can see what will work. Well, what won't work when playing against us. I was baffled, to be honest.
A big one for me was you obviously play with your fullbacks. I think someone mentioned, I think it was Connor Bromley mentioned it today, and I totally agreed with him. Hi, Connor, if you're listening. Your fullbacks push on. Like the kind of, they've done that for seasons. Like when you had I can't quite pronounce his name, but the boy from Man United who left and went to Preston on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Your boys at fullback have always pushed on. So you think, right, who am I going to put as my wingers? McGeady and disect. Defensively, probably the two worst wingers you could get, and you take Aidan O'Brien out. Did it feel like your fullbacks got a lot of joy today? Because I felt that from the opposition perspective.
Yeah, I thought Pugh Benny on the right-hand side had an absolute field day. He had the freedom on the right-hand side of the pitch. And he is one of the best wingers in the league. He's got pace. He can put a ball in for the most part. The left-hand side, we had Shane Ferguson, who is more defensive-minded. But in the first half, he had a lot of joy going forward down that left-hand side. Chio was a fan favourite us, and for today, like I said, we were just faultless. McGeady ended up getting sent off for doing something stupid. Or a yellow card.
Dickhead. Absolute dickhead.
Absolutely. I can't work out why he's done that. On a yellow card, throwing yourself in, it was almost a red on its own. And to be on a yellow was just brainless. But that I assume that's a frustration coming up against something like Pugh. It can go long, it can run, it can come inside. It's obviously just frustration that come out. But I think wing back area definitely is one of the key areas we hurt you today.
Yeah, I just felt like 100%. Dan, I want to come to you with McGeady. As I said before, dickhead. I love him, even if you are listening, I'm sure he's not. Big fan, and I'm sure he probably agrees with me today. He's been a bit of a dickhead, but experienced players on the pitch, Dan. We'll talk about young players looking up to the likes of, who's our experienced players on the pitch? O'Nien, McGeady, Bailey Wright, but we'll discuss that later. McGeady's your captain when you're on band, he goes and does that. I cannot fathom it, Dan, honestly.
It's just, no, it's inexcusable, isn't it? Like, I said it as soon as it happened. Like, the first half was bad enough in terms of the soft little free kicks we were giving away. And some of them were deserved, some of them weren't. But that's the type of ref you've got, right? So you don't do it. 10 seconds into the second half, he picked up that first yellow card. 10 seconds in. So that you've got to think, like, what's been said at half time? It shouldn't need to be said. It's a professional, it's experienced. This referee is going to blow up for every little thing, right? So don't give him the chance. You give away the first one, that's bad enough, and then the second one, like you say, Matt, it could have been a red on its own. Even without that, it was just there's no possible rationale for it. It's like he's going away from the pitch, he's going out for throw, and just shield him out. Whatever you need to do. If a young lad did that, yeah, you'd be lambasting him all season long. But McGeady's, there's just no reason for him to do it, and it might not make a difference in terms of the result, in terms of the points, but it would obviously. You basically then send them, go on, fill your boots with goals now because we're down to 10 men and we're already struggling. So you might as well just keep going. Whether we would have got back into the game and got it to 3-2, 3-3, 4-2, whatever, he just took that straight out of it. And we were saying before, weren't we? Like, it just looked like a decision that he made for, I can't be asked for this game anymore. It's not going my way, so I'll have an easy way out. And whether that's what he's thinking or not. But like I say, we know we've got young lads in the team. Young lads need to be looking up to these players, the experienced players, like you said, McGeady, Wright, Flanagan, O'Nien. Every one of them today we're making stupid decisions that the young ones have got to be thinking, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to carry the team here when the professionals, they're all professionals, the older professionals are doing stuff like that? Inexcusable, absolutely pathetic, to be honest.
I can kind of, if the likes of Callum Doyle makes a mistake or Dennis Sirkin or one of the young boys, and there's a few of them makes a mistake, I can kind of go, you learn from that. That's kind of part of your project. That's kind of the way it kind of sometimes is when you've got young, hungry players that are eager. And then you put your own pros in there to mix it up, don't you? And then McGeady does that. And they must be looking at that and go, is that what you do? I hope not. But they must be watching that going, right, so I learned from this guy who's played in the Champions League. Oh, right, so I just kick someone when I can't get around them.
There's making mistakes in terms of playing the wrong pass or making the wrong decisions in terms of trying to run it out when you should clear it. They're young lads' mistakes that you'd expect to make. Mm-hmm. That's not a mistake that anyone should make at any age or any level. Going in a tackle like that on a yellow card at any point in the game. So that's why I can't fathom anything for it, because it just doesn't. I can't understand.
There's no defense, is there? There's no defense for it.
No. Like I say, Doyle. We know Doyle. He's 18. He plays sloppy passes every now and again, but he's a brilliant centre back and what potential he's got. Those are the mistakes you accept with the team. That from McGeady, you can't accept it under any circumstances at all, at any level or time of the game or age of the player. Stupid.
Talked about changing it before, and Matt mentioned it. Obviously, at half time, he decided to change the formation and put Bailey Wright on. I can't say I'm surprised, but we got worse when Bailey Wright came on, Dan. But before I get on to Bailey Wright, actually, we've mentioned this a few. Oh God, I could go on forever. There's a few weeks now where I've raised the same question and I've said the same thing every week. I do love him. I do rate him as a player and so on and so forth. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, nah, I've lost my rag a bit. Luke O'Nien shouldn't be playing in midfield. His best position is right back, and he's not our best right back. You've got to get him out that midfield. He's been woeful again today, hasn't he, Dan?
Yeah, it's just, I'm the same as you. I've had enough of it now. I get after every game, it seems to be every defeat he's the scapegoat, and to a certain extent, I do think that's a bit over the top. Sometimes I do feel sorry for him sometimes, but not that he's blameless in any of that. There's obviously players, but he just, to me, he's never just playing the game, or he's playing a different game. He's playing his own game to try and just do daft little things, or just do banter things. Is what I think of. That's the only way I can describe it in my head. I can play an easy pass here, but I'm going to have to play it and then throw myself on the floor to make it look like I've done something really cool. Just play the pass, or dive in and just do like, and you can see it when it just offers nothing. I don't understand what he offers now anymore in that position.
On current form, doesn't offer a thing.
And it's just, I'm like I say, I've just had enough of what he offers now. Like I say, whatever his contract, put him back and right back if you need to switch it up a bit and see what he can do there. If you've agreed with him, you can't play him there, then fine, whack him on the bench because he needs time out because he's playing every minute anyway. It's just I can't. I don't like his antics anymore. I don't like it.
You know what? I like a bit of shithousery, and I think we've missed it a bit. But when your shithousery becomes detriment to your actual game, and people said to me like, "Oh, I think O'Nine's better at right back," and I was like, "No, you know what? I thought he was good in midfield when he played last year, and then he got forced into centre back and did a right centre back. He's obviously not a centre back, and I was like, give him a chance in midfield. I'd like to see O'Nien in a 3-man midfield. In a 2-man midfield, he offers nothing because what he offers you is energy at the best of times, and I think Daniel offers 10 times the amount of that. So maybe in a 3-man midfield would be better. But if I'm honest, I like him. I like him a lot. He's a lovely lad. But you just need to get out of the midfield.
That's it. I think he just needs. It's just a break. I think. I've got nothing against him. I do like the lad, but I do like. I've had enough of what he does. I just think he needs to get back to doing what he was doing last season when he was having to play out position because he had to learn a new position and focus and put his best in. And I think that's when he's at his best, when he has to like just get on with something that he's not used to doing. Like I think when he's in midfield, he's trying to do too much. Like he wants to be the shithouser, but then he wants to be the ball winner, and he wants to be this and that. He wants to be everything. I just don't think that's the role he should be playing. And like I say, in a 3, maybe he doesn't have to do that because there's an extra person to take some off him. And I just think he needs to focus more on the game itself than what he can do in terms of like winning free kicks or shit. Like the shithouse, and it works with other players. When you see it last week at Charlton, it didn't work because he just got bullied. So he needs to they even need to switch it up or give him a break, whether that's out of the team or in a different position or a different combination of like a 3-man or whatever. Something needs to happen differently if he's going to keep playing, I think.
Put him at left back in the changing rooms. One thing I did pick up on today, Matt, we've discussed him on your podcast this week. We've discussed him on my podcast this week, and you said you quite liked Will Grigg. He's out of the team. You scored 5 goals. I told you it's rubbish, didn't I? Safe to say you didn't miss him today?
Definitely not. No, I thought Freddie Ladapo was brilliant today. The thing with Freddie is he's a goal scorer, but his work rate is never there. And it was pressing, it was helping Smithy press the defenders, but it was also in and around the box as well. He could have had 3 or 4. He missed a couple of really good chances, Freddie. You
could have had about 25, if I'm completely honest with you, Joe.
Yeah. We talk about Freddie a lot on our podcast because of the way he plays, because of his lack of effort. But if he plays like he does today more often, Grigg's not getting back into the team. Because Freddie, that's everything that's good about Freddie today. I've got a lot of time for him, but he's got to put this in all week in, week out. Because if you don't put that week in out, we won't get promoted. That was what we need from him. The finish for the first one was superb, such a good finish. And that's what he gives us. He's got that in him, and I really, really want him to do well. And in fact, hopefully this is the start of him going on a run and scoring a bag full of goals because I love him.
I hope it's not, because I really would like you to keep hold of Will Grigg. I hope he's shite continuously and you go, get Will Grigg back in, because that would suit every party. So
yeah.
So please, Freddie, if you are listening, I'm sure he's not. Play well more often, apart from when you play us, you bastard. Yeah. When I spoke to you off air about this, Matt, and you've kind of alluded to it a bit. The most frustrating thing from a Sunderland perspective today is I knew Rotherham were a good side. We've discussed it in detail on 2 podcasts this week, so I wasn't surprised that you were good when you turned up. But I felt like you had another gear to go up. I felt like you beat us 5-1, and yeah, we had 10 men towards the end. Whether that would have happened, whether we had 10 men or not, I think probably would have done. But I just feel like you had another gear. Like, where does that rank in your performances this season? I honestly don't watch every week, but I feel like it's probably not your best you've played.
I think for the whole game, I think for 1 to 90, it's our best, because for 1 to 90, we played the same. But for example, when we played Portsmouth, there was a 15-minute spell where we were much better, but it was only quite a short spell. From 1 to 90, it was just running. We'll look at our midfield, Ben Wiles, Marley's and Rathbone. They just run, and they just run and run and run. And that's what won the game for us today, is that we wanted it. We wanted it much more. than Sunderland from 1 to 90.
Absolutely agree with you on that. I thought Rathbone was actually superb.
It was. Yeah, that guy. He just doesn't stop running. He's like an Energizer Bunny, has been referred to. He's just really non-stop. And the fifth goal, again, we're 4-1 up and we're still pressing and still trying to win the ball back, and the energy levels are still there. And that's why it ranks as such a good performance for us. We certainly could do a lot of things better. We could have scored many more goals. Finishing was a little bit off at times. We gave the ball away a lot in the midfield. Barley's did have a good game, but he still gave the ball away a lot. He got caught in possession once or twice. So there was quite a lot of things we could do. The goal we considered was so frustrating. Edmund Green, he backed off, and I can't for the life of me work out what he was doing. Just sort of get him, let him get in that position. So there are areas of the game today which we didn't do very well, but we didn't stop. We tried, we kept going, and we took most of the chances we got. But like I said, we could have got plenty more. So although it was excellent, there is still a level for us to go to, I think, which is very, very exciting for us.
I feel like there's another level for someone to drop. That's the worry. I'm sure there's not, but that's kind of the history of Sunderland. I think just when you think it got bad, it got worse. It's like Michael Myers, and just when he thought he died, he didn't. Came back from the fiery furnace to put in more bad performances. I'm very much in the Halloween mood. Don't know if anyone can tell. Dan, on the flip side, I'm saying, was that Rotherham's best performance of the season? Was that Sunderland's worst performance since we dropped into League One?
Yeah, it's got to be up there, hasn't it?
I can't think of worse, mate. I can't.
I think probably similar to what Matt said. There's probably been worse performances in isolations in parts of the game, but from a 1 to 90, given the form we're in, the form we have been in, the position we're in, like I said before, the positivity around it, I think that is it's got to be up there in terms of like, okay, yeah, we had shit performances when we were on shit runs under Parkinson and under Ross and whatever, but there was just no reason for that today. We didn't, like I said, they didn't need to get out of second gear because we didn't need them to, or they didn't need to. Sorry, we didn't give them a chance to because they didn't have to. So, yeah, it was definitely one of the worst performances I've seen for a long time. You conceded 5 goals, none of which were worldies and ones that you just hold your hands up and say, "Aye, fair enough, good goal." They were all goals that were preventable. I mean, 3 of them just one-on-one, and it's just one-on-one challenges or duels that we're just not a goal side and stuff like. Fairly right, Flanagan. You experienced defenders, and the ball's going in the box. If you go side of someone, you've got a good chance of winning it. If they get ahead of you, fair enough. We weren't even go side them, so we're giving them the chances to knock it in.
Basics, isn't it? It's the basics.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's just there's no excuse for that. It's the same as to me, that's as bad as nearly as bad as the McGeady red card, just not marking your man the way you should be marking.
It's the same level of unprofessionalism. I mean, that's the thing. We're saying it's basics. The only reason a professional footballer should be getting the basics wrong is lack of effort, or the other person wants it more than them. And Matt already said it felt like we wanted it more. I feel like that. And I've praised Flannel to the absolute hill. I love the daft curly-headed bugger. I love him to bits. But he was shite. Absolutely shite today. And it felt like, for once in Flanagan, something created wasn't a confidence thing. It wasn't a lack of quality. It was alongside a lot of other players. I'm not singling Tom Flanagan out because there's only one player I think I can give credit to today. I don't think they wanted it enough. I wanted to touch a little bit on Jacku as well, Dan. I'm not going to judge a player that early on, but I'm not that impressed. I think he's a substitute, not a starter.
Yeah, one of the things to me today was just the lack of organisation in the team. And one of the things with Jacku is, like I say, it's too early to judge him. We're not going to judge him because he's not had a pre-season by all accounts. So we've seen flashes of what he could do, but when we've seen him do his best stuff is he's coming off the bench. And like I said right at the start, I don't think the way that Rotherham were played, he was the right player at the start of the day. Whether Gooch was maybe, again, he's still slowly building up his fitness from his injury and obviously played in midweek, but you can tell he's got talent, right? You can tell that he's one of those players. He's got talent, he's got technique, but just his decision making today just seemed a bit off. It has been a bit off every game, but maybe that's just what you accept with that type of player. But he also just seems to lose his feet a lot, lose his balance a lot. He got played through in the box twice in the first half. I think once he either tread on the ball or did something. The second one he just slipped over. And if he's not going to be helping out defensively and he's not contributing going forward, he just seemed a bit lost. I felt a bit sorry for him to a certain extent, but I just thought it wasn't the game for him. I think if we'd had a hard-fought battle, he's on the bench and we're down by 1 or we're drawing and you bring him on like we've seen them do, and then that might be a different problem for them to deal with. But I just don't think he was a threat at all, and I don't know. We just haven't found his best position. Maybe, or he's, like I say, he's still working up to something. But it's a bit of a weird one. I just think it was a wrong game for him to be starting.
I feel like this is really going to show my age, and there's probably a big bunch of listeners, a big bunch, all 10 of them, that will probably not remember this person at all. But he reminds me of his playing style of David Bellion, like his feet are too big. And you're just like, well, you can run, but you don't always take the ball with your kid. And the problem we've got is you need to do that. He's like a mix for me at the minute between David Bellion and Carsten Fredgaard, or Chocolate Fireguard, as he was so wonderfully known, which doesn't bode well for younger listeners listening. They were both pretty shy. It doesn't bode well. So I guess the big thing, Dan, is I don't want to kind of like, I was very measured after Portsmouth peed me off. I could find reasons behind it. I was fairly measured last week after Charlton. Today has got on my goal, because today was the kind of performance where I can't excuse any part of it. But the one person I've got to give credit to again, and the only person I can give credit to, is Ross Stewart. Took his goal well again, caused problems, hit the post. How much trouble are we in, Dan, if Ross Stewart gets injured?
Yeah, I think we talked about it, didn't we? Like, you feel, in touch wood here, I'm not. If anything happens, it's not my fault. I'm not jinxing him. But if he gets a knock or something, we're screwed. Like he don't think he had his best game today, because he couldn't have a good game. But he had as good a game as he could have done with what he was dealing with. The goal was brilliant. The one hit at the post was unlucky. I think he kind of lost his head a bit in the second half. He gave away a few free kicks, but that's part of the cause. Everyone else was doing that. But that was probably his frustration, and especially when you went down 10 men, that's his game over. If it wasn't hard enough for him already, then it's doubly as hard then. But we should have capitalised on it more. We put a few good balls in when he was in good positions, and we weren't getting the right ball out, the ball into him at the right angles and just the right positions. But we should have done more of that when we got that first goal. We should have just done more of that. We had a bit of a run there, 10, 15 minutes, where we looked a bit more threatening, because of what he was trying to do and the positions he was getting in. And I think they were maybe, like Matt was saying, like they're obviously a bit worried about him, the way they scored the goal and stood off him and stuff. But then we didn't ever do that again. We didn't trust it again. But I said this in midweek in the cup game, and obviously I understand playing him and stuff, but we've got to try and manage his time especially while Broadhead's still out, because if we keep running him in the ground, we're going to be knackered if he gets a knock.
Mind you, I can't wait to listen back to this podcast when we beat Arsenal in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be very, very good, isn't it?
Focusing on the cup, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. League Cup, please. I think the big question is, and I think it has to be asked now, I think you can sometimes jump the gun and say, what needs to change after you've lost 1-0 in a game against Charlton? You probably should have drawn, or got beat 4-0 Portsmouth when it's a swimming bath, or you lose 1-0 at Burton when you've had most of the play. But I think now at this point, we've lost 3 and 5. That's the fact. Something does need to change. I'm assuming the fact that Lee Johnson tried to make some sort of change at half-time, horrendous set of changes, to be fair, but I'd rather he didn't. I'd rather he just left it as it was in hindsight. But something needs to change. What would you change, Dan?
I think he's got to be bolder, and I think he's got to change the formation or the person a little bit. I would switch up the midfield. I think he's got to be brave and drop him. And again, we're not singling people out, but it might be time to drop O'Nien for a game or two. Maybe drop Doyle for a game or two. Give Alves a run, because Doyle's playing a lot of minutes as well, and Flanagan's experience there. And he had a shaky game today, but he's been our best defender. So and we're not totally confident bringing Bailey Wright in. So I think he's got to be brave and playing some of the lads who are out, playing out the skin in the cup games, and just be we're a bit hamstrung going forward. I think that's the issue. I think the only thing you really can change is switching up the midfield a bit and just trying something different. I don't think there's any reason to worry too much just yet. It is the league that we're in, but the midfield, I think, is where we've got to switch things up and try and give Stewart a different way of getting the best out of him. I mean, Edmonton was pretty quiet today, but again, he's had a couple of games out, so he's probably just getting used to it. And then again, as soon as you go, well, exactly. I think today there was a lack of organisation. I don't know whether that was we didn't have enough talkers on the pitch, but you think we would. But maybe Corey Evans has got to come back in and do that and kind of get that kind of organisation mindset in place and the talking and the communication. But I think I think Johnson's just got to be brave and just just do something different with the starting 11. We've had a pretty solid starting 11, which is good because obviously we've been in good form, so why not? But I think there's time to take people out, and hopefully their injuries are going to help with that. You know, we've obviously had a bit of bad luck with the forward players getting injured, but yeah, it's a tough one to see what we can change because I do think we're limited in some areas. But for me, I would either switch up the personnel or the formation midfield and maybe put an extra body in there, move people around, just do something.
A bit more composure, I think. For me, the obvious is Corey Evans, just someone. I know he's made of like what's it, but like we do just someone with a bit of composure. He's obviously a very, very good player that's been hindered by injury. It's probably the only reason he's in League One. We've kind of noticed that. So for me, Corey Evans, if he's fit, comes in and just says, look, keep hold of the ball. And when the other young lads and the experienced players are losing their head, you just keep the ball and just keep things plodding on because Tuesday is huge now. That's one of the games in hand, and games in hand haven't always been nice to Sunderland. But just to finish off, obviously, Matt, I'll come to you first. It's a question I've started adding in. Wish I hadn't because the form's kind of dropped since. But what does that result mean in the context of Rotherham United season?
We keep saying this when we beat Portsmouth and other teams. It's a statement victory. Sunderland have had a great start, and we've not just beaten Sunderland, we've taken Sunderland apart. Had a bad day, all right, but we're part of the reason that Sunderland had a bad day. I got to the point in the season, I don't know whether I'm underselling Rotherham United or not, because it's all, I'm always a bit of a person. In life, I'm an optimist. When it comes to Rotherham United, I always think something's going to go wrong sooner or later.
I feel you 100%.
Yeah. And then we beat Portsmouth, then we draw to Wickham, and then we beat MK Dons, and then I think, we might be getting something good here. And then we go put a 5-1 performance in at home. And you're like, well, we might be quite good, as you know. But it feels like we're still going at radar a bit. We're still only fourth. Everybody else, Plymouth are having a good start, and everybody else. So we've got to keep going. We said at the start of this run of Pompey, Wickham, MK Dons, and you guys, we will know where we're going to be at the end of the season. And we've got, 10 points out of 12. We should be looking for automatics now. That's where we should be looking at now. It's a long season. We're only 14 games in, but why not? We've got to look at this team and think, and be proud of what they're doing, proud of the work rate they're putting in, and they have got that quality. They're showing they've got that quality. So it's a huge win to beat our promotion rival. Should be a promotion rival. 5-1 at home is as I said, it's a statement victory for us.
It's massive, isn't it? Dan, on the flip side, same question to you. What does that result mean in the context of Sunderland season?
I think it means you need to have a kick up the arse. Like, I think it means, again, I'm not going to be too...
It means fucking sort yourselves out, lads.
That's it. Get your finger out. Like, I'm not going to be too over the top. I think it means, okay, we need to get fucking serious about this, because you look at the other games that we've lost, like we said, like, there's reasons you can kind of take with it as excuses or positives. There was none of that today. That was just a pure, absolute, you deserve nothing more than what you got. So, I mean, you can't have that. So I think everyone needs to have a look at themselves and say, right, yeah, we've had a good start. Couple of slips ups here and there, but none that we took too seriously. But this is a serious slip up. Like, that's not acceptable. So if they're going to be competing, like you say, if Rotherham is saying they can be competing in the top two, that has to be what we're doing. So, but we're polar opposites today. So I think it's a proper wake up call for them. They need to get really serious. If you're going to get out of this league, you've got to be really okay. You're going to lose games. That's fine. You can accept that, but not in the way that we did today. And that should be the really serious message. Is like, this cannot be tolerated. Like, this is not how we should be performing. If you get beat, you get beat, but not in that manner.
Yeah, it's not acceptable for Sunderland Association Football Club, to be honest, on a serious note. But if you've made it this far, listeners, well done. You get a Blue Peter badge or whatever it is you get these days. I've got nothing to give you, honestly. My wage is nowhere near high enough. So you just get a pat on the back. If you've made it this far, you've definitely subscribed. So I'm not going to tell you to subscribe, because if you've made it this far on the podcast, you must have subscribed. But I guess I was going to say things can't get worse. You never know with Sunderland, but hopefully it won't. Matt, it's been great chatting to you this week. Thanks for coming on. I'm sure it wasn't too hard for you to come on and discuss.
It's been a decent one to discuss this. Yeah, it's been good. Thanks. Do
you want to go on an opposition podcast when you've just won 5-1? I would love to. Thank you very much. And Dan, great first debut. Slightly better than the performance on the pitch today, but only so slightly.
We could have done much worse, could have. So, I know. Cheers for having us. Enjoyed it.
Not a problem. Thanks for listening, guys. Enjoy Halloween, which is, of course, the best holiday of them all.